All right, today we're going deep into the forests of Vermont to uncover the incredible story behind a true breakfast icon, maple syrup. We're going to look at everything from a very specific weather pattern to a network of tubes stretching for miles to break down exactly how it gets from inside a tree all the way to your table.
Let's be honest, for most of us, this is all we know, right? It's that sweet, familiar topping we just pour all over our pancakes and waffles. It's a total classic. But the story of how it gets made? Well, that's something else entirely.
But have you ever really stopped and wondered, how does that even work? It's this really cool story of nature, a whole lot of patience, and some surprisingly high-tech stuff. So let's start at the very beginning, with the weather.
You see, this whole thing kicks off not because a person decides it's time, but because nature gives the signal. The entire harvest depends on a very specific weather pattern. It's kind of like a secret handshake between the cold winter nights and the warming spring sun. Everything, and I mean everything, hinges on this delicate balance. What you need are these freezing cold nights, which actually create pressure inside the tree. Then, when the sun comes out and warms things up during the day, that thaw is what literally pushes the sap out. If you don't have that daily freeze and thaw cycle, the sap just isn't going anywhere.
So, once the weather gives that green light, it's go time. It's time to tap the trees. But this isn't as simple as just poking a hole in a tree. It's a really careful and precise art that's been perfected over centuries to get the sap out without actually hurting the tree.
So this is the whole idea behind tapping. And the most important part of that sentence is right at the end, without harming the tree's health. The whole goal is sustainability, so that these same trees can be tapped for decades, sometimes for over 100 years.
And what's really amazing is just how gentle this process is. They drill a tiny hole, only about an inch deep, which is just enough to get into what are basically the tree's veins. A small plastic spigot goes in, and from there, the sap starts its long journey through this incredible network of tubes.
And get this number, 50 years. That's how long they have to wait for a tree to be mature enough to tap. It's a huge test of patience, but the payoff is incredible. That same tree can keep producing sap for another 100 years after that.
Okay, if you thought that was something, get ready for this next number. To connect all of these trees, just one farm uses 136 kilometers of plastic tubing. I mean, picture that. It's a massive, sprawling web designed to carry thousands of liters of sap down the mountain every single day.
And you need all that tubing because on a really good day, just one of these big, healthy trees can give you about 2 liters of sap. Now multiply that by thousands and thousands of trees, and you start to get a sense of the insane scale we're talking about here.
You know, the crazy thing is, the basic idea of tapping has been around for centuries, but the technology, that has definitely changed. We've gone from the traditional method of collecting sap, one bucket at a time, to this modern high-tech tube system that's way more efficient.
Okay, so collecting the sap is just part one. Now for the real magic. We're heading to what they call the sugar house, or boiling room. This is where that clear, watery liquid gets transformed into the thick, sweet syrup we all know and love. You know, if you were to taste the sap right out of the tree, you'd probably be a little underwhelmed. It's not the thick, dark stuff you're expecting. It's totally clear, just like water, with only a little bit of sweetness and a very faint, kind of woody flavor. So how do they do it? How do you get from that sweet water to thick syrup? Well, it all comes down to one simple bit of science: evaporation. You just boil the sap for hours and hours, all that excess water turns into steam, and what you're left with is this super concentrated sugar solution with an amazing, rich flavor. And just like with the tapping, the technology for boiling has changed a lot. Back in the day, this was all done over big wood fires. Now they use these massive evaporators powered by fuel oil, which can process huge amounts of sap way faster and more efficiently. So after all that boiling, what's the goal? It's all about hitting this one magic number. The sap starts out with only about 2 or 3% sugar. To officially be called maple syrup, it has to reach a sugar concentration of 75%. Think about that jump. That's an incredible transformation.
All right, so after all that hard work, all that science, we finally have it, the pure, delicious maple syrup that's ready to go.
Yeah, that quote pretty much says it all. There is just nothing like fresh, warm maple syrup right out of the evaporator. It has this rich, complex flavor that's just, it's the payoff for the entire journey, from those cold forest nights to the hot steam of the sugar house.
And you know what's great? The final steps are super simple because it's pure maple syrup. Nothing else gets added. No colors, no artificial flavors, nothing. Once it hits that 75% sugar mark, it's basically ready to be bottled. But here's a wild fact for you. There actually aren't enough maple trees in the whole world to meet the global demand for the real stuff.
So, the next time you're reaching for that bottle of maple syrup, maybe you'll pause for just a second. Will you think about that incredible journey? The 50-year-old trees, the miles and miles of tubing, and the simple science that brings it all together. Definitely some food for thought for your next pancake breakfast.